Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. I was on my way home from work 5 weeks ago and thought I needed to get a haircut. In my mind, I knew it had been around 6 weeks, so I was due. The last woman who cut my hair for 7 years had made up her mind that she was going to stay home with her 2 young children so she could no longer cut my hair. Soon, I pulled into a strip mall close to my house, where a brand new salon had just opened. This place was called Putting Together the New You Salon. I chose to try it because I thought it would be easy to get my hair cut there since the place is so close to my house. I should have given that choice more thought. The smell of a salon met me as I walked through the door. I didn't know what the smells were at the time, but I would soon find out. I didn't mind the smells. Years ago, I got my hair cut at hairdressers. Everything about the shop was brand new and had what looked like the newest, most high-tech shampoo sinks and hair dryers. When I got to the front desk, I waited a moment before a very pretty woman with brown hair came out of a back room. She was dressed in a colorful pleated skirt and a sweater that fit her closely. Her hair was also beautiful. She walked up with a smile that made you want to talk to her. Her name was Sasha, and she asked what she could do to help me. I said, "Hi, my name is Troy," and then I told her about getting my hair cut by someone else. She promised that she could help me, but first, she told me to fill out a form so she could make a file on me. The form asked a lot of things, like age, weight, height, and body sizes, natural hair and eye color, marital status, and so on. She looked over the form after I filled it out and gave it back to her. She nodded approvingly and told me I would do well. I didn't fully understand that comment, but didn't think anything of it. After she was done going over the form, she led me back into her private room at the salon. As we walked, she told me that the other 2 women who worked there had the day off, so she was the only one there. She said it was time to get down to business. I told her that was fine, and I felt at ease with her right away. When we went into her private workshop, she made me sit in her styling chair. She said she'd be back as soon as she locked the front door. She came back a short time later and asked what I had in mind. I told her that all I really needed was a haircut. This is when things changed. Sasha ran her fingers through my sandy blonde hair pretty quickly and asked, "Do you trust me?" I said, "Sure, what did you have in mind?" Because I felt a little brave. "How much time do you have tonight for me to work on you?" she said with a flirty tone in her voice. I told her, "I have all night. I have no plans. You have me." "Good. I have something very different planned for you then," she smiled and said. "To begin, I believe you would feel a lot better if you had something to drink, like wine." I always say yes when I see a Merlot, so I said sure. I had to wait in the chair for Sasha to fill a glass with wine. There's another room. Before she did anything else, she made me drink a lot of wine, putting a flowery cape around me and lowering the shampoo bowl to my level. I felt a little off when she turned on the water. My body felt really heavy, but my mind was clear as a bell. I moved my arm, but it wouldn't move. I told her I was fine when she asked me if I was okay. All of a sudden, my body went cold. She laughed a little and said, "Yeah, the wine works great. Without it, you wouldn't let me make the new you. Okay, let's begin." I should have been scared, but the wine must have calmed me down. "Yes, that's the reaction as well." She started to lay out her plans for me. What I heard made no sense to me. At first, she told me that the length of my hair was not appropriate, and that after giving my hair a good wash and deep drying, she would start with the needed hair extensions, which she called Step 1 with a laugh. She told me she wanted to do something much more dangerous and do a better job with my look than she did with her other clients. She said she was excited to get the newest high-tech additions and that I would love having my hair fall to the middle of my back. "You'll love how it feels against your skin when you wear a dress with off-the-shoulder sleeves." I couldn't do anything but listen in shock. I didn't want to touch my hair. When I felt it against my skin and wore an off-the-shoulder dress, I was a man, not a woman. I got this across to Sasha, but she just flashed that smile and said, "I guess that's what you thought, too." "Change is good," she said. After that, Sasha told me about Step 2. She said that in Step 2, my hair and the extensions would get dyed. Once more, she wished to go all the way. I was going to have the darkest brown hair with a lot of blonde and chestnut highlights. She told me this would take several hours by itself, but she promised me the end result would be worth it. I might have laughed at her. What is this woman? A thought crossed my mind. Before she talked about step 3, she had already finished my shampoo and was applying a thick, creamy liquid with a very flowery smell to my hair. I could only guess that the substance was the deep conditioner she had talked about before. Then she went ahead with what I thought was putting a bag over my hair. We need to dry you for 5 minutes, and we're using heat to do it. We want your hair to look its best. That might be a good shape for tonight's plans, she said with a smile. Then she turned on a hairdryer, placed it on top of my head, turned a few knobs, and warm air began to flow over my head. After that, she said she was getting ready for something and would be back in 5 minutes. This was very scary for me because I had never been under a hairdryer before, with an airbag over my head. Each minute that went by made me more and more scared. Was this real? Was something being filmed as a prank and I was the subject? Or was this woman really going to change my hair so much? When the 5 minutes were up, she came in with what looked like hair on a cart. I thought, my God, she's serious. The strands seemed to be anywhere from 8 inches to more than 30 inches long. I thought they were a little lighter than my hair, but she told me that when coloring my whole head of hair, including extensions, it's best to start with ones that are lighter. I said in a mocking tone, "Oh, that's great to know." At this point, that's pretty much all I could do. She took the dryer off my head, took off the plastic bag, and leaned me back over the sink to rinse out the conditioner. "You should feel how great your hair feels," she said. In the end, Sasha dried my hair again by putting me under the dryer for longer because she had to wait for my hair to dry before she could start with the extensions. She talked about them as she left the room again to, as she put it, keep getting ready for your beautiful new look. This time, she finally came back after about 15 minutes, pushing a cart with 7 boxes on it. 4 of them were different colors of hair, and 3 of them were metal plates, all of the same color. There were also 5 small brushes and various other things that I didn't recognize. She turned off the dryer, moved it across the room, and asked with a smile, "Are you ready for the first step?" I said something like, "I don't know." And she said, "I didn't think you would be, but I am, so let's go." Those words started her on a 4-hour process. As she began, Sasha told me that she usually adds 1 strand of hair extension to every 4 natural hairs. But for the look she wanted for me, she would use 2 strands for every 4 hairs. In other words, the process would take twice as long, but she assured me she could handle it. She began at the hairline at the back of my head and worked her way forward, sometimes reminding me how great my new hair was going to feel on my back and shoulders. To begin, she would split off a line of hair and move the other hair out of the way with lots of clips. Then she would take individual strands of my hair and glue them to the extensions. I'm not sure how the process worked exactly, but she made sure to tell me that cutting them off was the only way to remove them once they were put in. Before I knew it, I could start to see Sasha's handiwork. My hair was now falling over the back of the hairdresser chair, getting very close to the ground, about 12 inches. My heart was racing, and with each strand she let fall, I could feel my anxiety rising, but I was powerless to stop it. About an hour into the process, I tried to distract myself from what was happening and told myself that I would sue this woman for everything she was worth if I could. After 2 hours, half of my head was now covered with hair extensions that fell down my back. Then I heard the salon's front door open and a woman say, "I'm here for Sasha's nails." I thought, no way, could anything else go wrong? Sasha told me to wait a minute before she went to greet the new person. From what I could now see, this was part of my transformation into a woman. Shortly after, a very pretty blonde woman walked in behind Sasha. "Hi," she introduced herself as Tiffany, your nail technician. This is great, I thought, but I wasn't prepared to deal with it. "Say what I'm thinking, Tiffany," Sasha began. "I believe that sculpted nails would be the best thing to use on Troy in this case. I thought about having you do them in, the perfect girly manicure, pinks and whites. I think it should be about 1/2 inch longer than the tip of his finger. "What do you think?" she asked Sasha. Tiffany replied, "That sounds great to me. I'm going to get my things together and start working on Troy's nails right away." Tiffany then left the room to do what she said she would do, which was get her things. I was back in Sasha's arms, and she quickly fell back into her process for putting the extensions on. 10 minutes passed before Tiffany came back with her goods to do, she said, my nails. As Sasha continued connecting the many hair extensions, Tiffany started shaping nails with pink and white polish, as Sasha had requested. Tiffany first cleaned up my nail and then used a special shape to paint it. She began to make the fake nail by mixing powder and liquid. Soon enough, my hands had a 10 exactly shaped, half-inch long, tapered, knife-like things. Not long after that, each of my 10 new knives had a new, ultra-feminine manicure, as my top feminizer asked for. Despite the strong smells of acrylic and polish, Sasha picked up the task of putting on and painting my new sculptured nails. I learned from Sasha that after she was done with the extensions and the coloring was done, there would be a big change to my beautiful new hair, long spiral curls. I let out a gasp, even though I was high. I couldn't imagine myself with spiral curls going down to my bottom. She then told me how she was going to wrap my long, colored and highlighted hair in the most difficult and time-consuming way to create the best, tightest spiral curls. "This is how I get the look I want," she said. I was told that the sheer pull of having all that hair on those little rods would definitely lead to a headache. She thought she would need at least 150 to 200 rods to make the circular curls that she wanted my soon-to-be very long hair to have. She told me more, that this was her first time spiral perming hair this long before, but she was sure she could do it. She laughed and said, "Pull it off or curl it up." She said she was going to do a piggyback wrap and that she usually would use 2 rods for each part of hair. But my hair is so long, each part will likely need 3 to 4 rods. Sasha only smiled and said, "He or she should be fine. Don't worry about your soon-to-be little head." Each new degree that made me more like a woman made my heart sink even more, as was given to me by my feminization queen. I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt completely tired, which I now understood. It made things easy for her. Tiffany asked if she could do anything else after she was done with my nails. Sasha quickly put her to work, giving me a pedicure, which included the same pink and whites that my nails had. Tiffany and Sasha finished the job they were given almost at the same time. The hair was now hanging over about 6 inches, and my shoulders and back were covered with completely straight, dark blonde hair. I could feel hair on my arms and legs, which were resting on the salon chair's arms. I think that all of my hair, besides my new hairstyle, had grown at least 30 inches longer, even the bangs. Then Sasha told me it was time for step 2, coloring step by step. Had I really been sitting here with these 2 crazy women for more than 4 hours? It had to be a bad dream. Tiffany said she could help with the highlights, which would begin once the overall color processing was done, that is, in 50 minutes. Tiffany said she wouldn't miss this for the world. They both laughed out loud at this. After that, Sasha started to cover my very long hair with 3 boxes of darkest chestnut brown. Sasha told me I was going to turn brown and asked how it felt. I couldn't do anything but shrug. It was heavy on my head, amazing with all that hair dyed and twisted up on top of itself on top of my head. Just putting on the base color took Sasha more than 20 minutes. While the colorant was on and the timer was running, Tiffany pierced both of my ears 3 times for Sasha. I was shocked. "Hi, Sasha." Tiffany walked in and said, "Ready for some earrings?" They hadn't said a word yet. "Sure, how about 3 in each?" Sasha replied. Tiffany used these words 6 times to load the pierce gun and put 6 different holes in my ears and gave me starter studs as they got a call. Tiffany told me I would have to wait a little while before I could wear big hoops or dangling earrings. I thought, great, just what I want to look forward to. As the timer ran out, each minute sealed my fate to be a brunette more. Sasha waxed both of my eyebrows into a very girly arch. All I could do was stare blankly into the mirror as my once masculine body slowly changed and became more feminine. The raised brows, no doubt, did not help this result. While Sasha was explaining that they were going to shape and color my eyebrows and eyelashes, and that my eyebrows would also be permed, I didn't hear much because I was caught up in trying to understand my situation. When the timer went off, I was back at the shampoo sink, but this time it was different. This time, Sasha had to rinse off a lot of extra colorant because my hair was so long. After the long wash and towel dry, I was back under the dryer again. Sasha told me while washing out the dye that my new brown hair would need to be dried before she could apply the 4 different types of highlighter she had planned to use. I was shocked at how dark my hair had become. When it was wet, it almost looked black. With my well-done eyebrows and long dark hair, I was already losing the old Troy look. After 30 minutes, Sasha and Tiffany came back, took the dryer off, and said I was ready for highlights. Sasha had mixed up the colors she was going to paint on my dark hair. Blonde, rich auburn, light blonde, and dark blonde. But she told Tiffany that she needed to make more foils because she was going to hide most of my new brown hair with them. Then she got to work, starting in the back as she had done with the base color. Sasha would pull out strands of hair, place the foil underneath, pick up one of her brushes, dip it into one of the colors, and paint the strand and the foil. After that, she would move on to the next, changing colors as she went. In 40 minutes, I looked like I could have received messages from the farthest corners of a room. It seemed like I had hundreds of these foils in my hair, the kind you see on someone who changes their hair color often. They extended all the way down the back of the salon chair, and Sasha had to be careful not to disturb the ones already done as she moved around. At 11:45 p.m., Sasha said that the highlighting process was finished and put me back under the dryer for 20 more minutes, or until she was satisfied with the color results, I was told. 20 minutes later, I was back in the shampoo sink with all the foils being removed. My freshly dyed hair was cleaned again to get ready for step 3, the awful spiral perm, and to deep condition the hair. The worst thing ever. I laughed out loud to myself, thinking that they were losing their minds. They took my long hair out of the sink and turned the chair around so I could see. I almost passed out when I saw myself in the mirror. My light blonde hair, which had just been dyed brown, had turned into a rainbow of different colors of brown, auburn, and blonde. It would draw a lot of attention. Anyone who saw me would think my hair was girly. What the heck was I going to do? "Tiffany, don't you think he loves it?" Sasha spoke up as I just looked at myself in the mirror, seeing the woman I was becoming. "The most important time, the most anticipated process of all, the perm," Sasha said as they both laughed out loud. After a short time, Sasha walked into the room, pushing a cart full of what I think were perm rods. There were blue, pink, and yellow ones in various lengths, but all having very small diameters. Sasha told me she would use a mix of these rods and that the pink metal ones would be used most often. Thank God, at least they seemed to be the biggest of the 3. She quickly asked Tiffany to hand her what she called end papers. She wrapped up to 1/3 of the way around my head before adding a 4th and, sometimes, a 5th string to the rod as she worked her way down the back of my head. After that, she would put another rod on top of the previous one and wind it down to it. She would continue like this until the whole strand was wrapped around 3, 4, or even 5 rods. At one point, I heard Tiffany whisper, "My God!" She continued, "I don't know how we can keep his head up." I felt the weight pretty quickly. I hadn't even gotten used to how heavy my new hair was when it was wet, let alone with all of these rods attached. Soon, the whole back of my head was wrapped, and Sasha called for the yellow rods and the blue rods as she moved closer to the top of my head. About 3/4 of the way through, my head was getting too heavy to hold up. As Sasha added more rods, it was good that they now had to shrink and lose weight. Sasha broke the last perm rod over my face after 2.5 hours of wrapping. Then she applied some very thick cream around my hairline and put a cotton strip around my entire head before pouring 4 boxes of perm solution over my rods. My eyes started to tear up from the smell I used to notice when it was being used on someone else as I came in for a haircut. "Girl, we used over 200 rods on your head," Sasha said with a laugh as she covered my head with a plastic bag and put me under the dryer for at least an hour. Right before she put me under the dryer, Sasha told me how a perm works, as if I needed or wanted to know that. She said the perm product she used makes the hair softer so it can fit around the rods once it's wrapped up. She would rinse out the hair once it was soft enough, then apply the neutralizer and the perm product. This will make the hair set in the shape of the rods, creating beautiful, long, tight curls. She said it was likely that I would lose 6 inches of length because of the tightness of the curl. Oh, darn, I said in a mocking tone. I was afraid of how these new curls would look, so time moved very slowly. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.